um, uh, I'm glad you came back. I I got really worried, you would think I'm too weird and not want to hang out again. But, I'm really happy. Thank you. So, did you want to talk about Touhou some more? Really? I'm glad. um, so last time I only talked about embodiment of Scarlet Devil, but there's actually 19 main games, and a lot of spin-offs. Not to mention lots of fan-made games. I think Luna Knights is a popular one, and Last Word is a mobile gacha game I've seen around too. But to be honest, I usually only ever end up playing the main games. Speaking of which, I mean, I might as well go in chronological order explaining the games to you, right? So, as I said before, the order you actually play the games in doesn't matter, but I mean, there is some overarching plot, and some bosses end up playable in later games. Like almost the entire cast of Embodiment of Scarlet Devil, it ends up playable at some point. In fact, in the next game, Perfect Cherry Blossom, Sakuya is one of the characters you can play as. In Perfect Cherry Blossom, it's May, but for some reason, there's absolutely no sign of spring. In fact, it's still snowing, and it's really chilly. Rima knows that something is off, and is sick and tired of the cold, which, I mean, I totally get that. Winter is actually my least favorite season, too. At the Scarlet Devil Mansion, Sakuya realizes their winter supplies are getting low, so she must do something about it. Whereas Marissa notices a stray cherry petal all by itself outside and realizes if spring isn't happening there, then surely it must be happening somewhere else. So all of the girls go on their own separate journeys to fix spring. It's wintry out, so Chirno is naturally the first mini-boss you come across, but she's easily brushed aside, so you come across what you think must be the culprit behind it, Bloody White Rock, a Yuki Onna who jokes about being the mastermind behind the scenes, but pulling the strings and lengthening winter. She has maybe one of my favorite lines in the game when talking to Sakuya, saying, "There's a freaky flying maid coming towards me." She also threatens to kill Reimu, but that's besides the point. But, of course, she's not actually a mastermind, so search is nowhere close to complete yet. Then, suddenly, you're in a village, but it's not the human village. It's somewhere else entirely. You're now in the Lost Village. It sounds scary, but it's actually just an abandoned village with a bunch of cats. More specifically, it's where the Shikigami Chen stays, attempting to raise a bunch of cats to be her servants, which she mostly fails at, I'm pretty sure. Chen tells the girls they are now lost forever and can never return, but Reimu threatens to steal a bunch of stuff from the village. Sakuya tells Chen to get euthanized, and Marissa is just ready to fight in general, so Chen ends up driving them out from the village instead. But don't forget about Chen, because she's going to be relevant later. Moving onwards, you're back in the Forest of Magic, and you come across a strange girl with a bunch of dolls. This is actually another favorite character of mine. Alice Margatroid. She actually appeared in the 5th game, Mystic Square, and is one of the few characters that got carried over to modern Touhou. She's a magician, similar to Marissa and Patchouli, and specializes in magic with dolls and puppeteering. Alice greets Reimu like an old friend, but Reimu has absolutely no memory of her. Reimu asks her about why winter has gone so long, and Alice tells her that someone has been gathering it. Reimu asks if she's the one behind it, and is ready to just leave and move on when Alice says no. But Alice, irritated, Reimu is ready to move on so soon, even though Alice remembers her from years ago, as if she's brought her life as a gift. Reimu calls Alice a 7-colored magical moron, and they fight, with Reimu being the obvious victor. In Marissa's route, they chat for a little bit about being magicians, and Alice, instead of being direct, like she is in Reimu's route, only hints about the cause of the incident. Marissa calls Alice a weirdo and takes what little springtime Alice has gathered. In Sakuya's route, Sakuya is worrying over Romelia when Alice appears, asking why Sakuya isn't more concerned about herself. Sakuya reassures her and tells her that she not only has 3 pairs of spare clothes, but also a spare pair of knives. Alice is taken aback by the knives, but tries to quickly regain her composure and claims she has no worries. Sakuya interrogates Alice about who is causing the incident, but only after Sakuya beats her. She says that Reimu is probably to blame. Sakuya sees through this immediately and tells Alice to tell the truth. And Alice points out how the springtime follows a person the more cherry blossoms they gather. Sakuya realizes this means whoever is gathering the springtime is upwind, leaving Alice before she can even finish her thoughts. Next comes maybe one of the more complex stages, the Prismriver Sisters. The Prismriver Sisters are a band of 3 poltergeists who were created many years ago by a girl who created them in the form of her older sisters after they left her. They each specialize in an instrument, and together they form an ensemble. In the stage itself, the first girl you encounter varies depending on which character you're playing as, with Lunasa for Reimu, Lyrica for Marissa, and Merlin for Sakuya. The dialogue varies between each character, but the essence is that the girls come across a giant barrier in the sky, with much warmer temperatures and more cherry blossoms floating through the air. After fighting the mid-boss Lily White, who's the embodiment of spring, by the way, and also a fairy, the girls come across a Prismriver who then challenges them to a battle. After fighting the first Prismriver, the other 2 show up too and reveal that behind the barrier there's actually a flower viewing banquet going on at a mansion. funny enough, at this point, Nerika calls Sakuya a dog girl, presumably because of how loyal she is to Emilia. Also, they have Danmaku that's specifically shaped like music notes, which I thought that was a nice detail. After winning, Marissa asks the Prismriver sisters to open the barrier, which is basically just a giant door with seals on it, only for them to tell her that it doesn't open. Marissa is obviously confused and is like, well, how did you guys get past it then? Only for the answer to be that everyone just flies over it. Meanwhile, both Reimu and Sakuya understand how to get past it just fine, with Sakuya noting this kind of barrier is simple to bypass. Once over the barrier, the girls are quickly attacked by a girl with 2 swords and a strange spirit, who only says, "You're a human, I see. Just what I needed. I shall drain every drop of spring from you." She then disappears, only to reappear again later, commenting how rare it is for a living human to make it here. She then reveals that they're actually in Haku Gyoukurou, which is a mansion located in the Netherworld, aka the afterlife. Her name is Yomu Konpaku, and she's a half-spirit, half-human girl, weirdly insistent on the fact she's half non-phantom, who works for the mistress of the mansion and is currently gathering as much spring as possible for her mistress to make the Saigyo Ayakashi bloom. The Saigyo Ayakashi is basically this giant cherry tree in the netherworld that has been sealed for millennia, and it has a seal on it that prevents it from blooming. Yomu attacks you again and attempts to steal your spring, only to fail. Reluctantly, she lets you pass, despite mentioning to Marissa how uneasy she is letting her by. You only make it a short while, though, before Yomu pops out again and declares that you shouldn't go any further because the mistress will not hesitate to kill you. Obviously, you brush her off easily, going further into the cherry blossoms. There, you meet her, the mastermind behind the stolen spring, Yuyuko Saikyoji. She's a ghost currently serving as a princess of sorts in the netherworld. As dramatic as it sounds, she has the ability to manipulate death and to kill someone by merely thinking about it. As an extension of this ability, she is also able to manipulate the spirits of the dead, hence why she has such a high status in the netherworld. She reveals the whole reason she is gathering spring is because the seal placed on the Saigyo Ayakashi is also sealing a person, not just the tree itself. Reimu warns her that things that are sealed are best left alone, as they're usually sealed for a reason, but Yuyuko disregards her and points out that even if they do revive something nasty, she has the ability to manipulate death and would be able to kill it. Reimu declares, "Alright, enough joking around. I'll now take back Gensokyo's spring." In Marissa's route, she offers Marissa to take Yomu's place as her assistant, which Marissa obviously declines. Yuyuko then tells her that she can be a substitute instead, to which Marissa declines yet again. In Sakuya's route, Yuyuko mentions how gorgeous the spring in the netherworld is, to which Sakuya replies, "Isn't it only gorgeous because you stole it from Gensokyo?" Yuyuko asks her if she dislikes spring, and Sakuya replies she's mad because she likes spring. Before each fight, each girl ends up having a weirdly dramatic line before the fight, like Reimu and Yuyuko going, "Return beneath the flowers" goes to spring, and "Sleep beneath the flowers, red white butterfly." This is then the second time in this game Sakuya has been called a dog girl. And then that's it. You defeat Yuyuko, and spring is returned back to Gensokyo. I'm not going to spoil the ending, but I will spoil something that I think is important about Yuyuko's character. person sealed underneath the Saigyo Ayakashi is actually Yuyuko herself. During her lifetime as a human, Yuyuko originally only had the ability to manipulate spirits. However, as time went on, her powers grew stronger and stronger, until she's able to kill merely by thinking about it. I mean, obviously this is a very scary power to have, and terrified by it, she wasn't part of the living anymore. But when she became a ghost, something happened. She completely forgot all of her old life. The thing is, though, is after she died, like I said, she was sealed and buried under the Saigyo Ayakashi, which essentially froze her in time, preventing her from reincarnating or moving on. But if the seal is undone, she'll be unfrozen from time and will die once more, this time permanently. So, on a subconscious level, she prevented herself from ever reaching full spring, and thus unsealing the Saigyo Ayakashi, saving her own life. But, as you know, the 6th stage is never the end for Touhou games. In fact, this game is extra special in that it has not just 1, but 2 extra stages for you to play. The scenario for the extra stage goes as following. When you went over that giant gate in stage 4 after defeating the Prismrivers, you actually weakened the barrier between Gensokyo and the Netherworld. When questions about this, Yuyuko points out she actually requested her friend to repair the barrier, but it still hasn't been done. Apparently, a familiar of this friend has also been acting out and causing a lot of ruckus in the Netherworld, so Yuyuko asks the girls to investigate. So, remember Chen? From stage 2? She's back again, and this time much more powerful. Of note is, in Reimu's route, she mentions she's fresh and newly possessed. This might seem strange, considering Chen just seems like your normal cat girl, but she's actually the familiar in question mentioned earlier that is actually a Shikigami. Shikigami in Gensokyo are like, it's a little difficult to explain, but they're essentially spirits that operate similar to computer programs that can possess other creatures. Chen in particular is a Shikigami of another Shikigami, and is still relatively young, so her possession can be dispelled by having water poured on her. It's mentioned that when possessed, she has the ability of a Kishin, aka an Oni, but it's unclear whether or not she's actually being possessed by a Kishin spirit. Of course, regardless of how much more powerful Chen is now, the girls are still able to easily defeat her, and then you meet the extra stage boss, Ran Yakumo. Ran Yakumo is also a Shikigami, and in fact, she's the master of Chen. Ran in particular is a beast spirit from the animal realm, possessing a 9-tailed fox. It's extremely unusual for a Shikigami to have another Shikigami, as it already takes a large amount of power to create one. Even Sakuya, who normally is very level-headed, is somewhat taken aback by this. This is also the 3rd time Sakuya is called a dog girl. Ran is irritated that you attacked Chen when they are in the middle of preparing a banquet, so she says she's taking revenge by attacking you back. After fighting, you ask where Ran's master is, only for her to respond that she's sleeping, even though it's the middle of the day. Ran says her master is only awake during the night, so you must wait longer before you're able to face her. So that's the 1st stage. But, like I said, this game has an extra stage, the Phantasm stage. So then night falls, and you're back again. Ran is exhausted and mentions how she was just going to sleep, but you insist on fighting her and then meeting her master. She relents, and then there she is, the actual final boss of Perfect Cherry Blossom, Yukari Yakumo. Yukari is an ancient yokai whose ability is to manipulate boundaries. This might not sound like much, but put into practice, she's able to manipulate anything with a boundary. Day and night, outside world and Gensokyo, if it has a start and end, she could manipulate it. She's also implied to be related to a side character from the music CDs, but that's a whole other thing. She shows this off by making the moon appear on a night with a new moon and trapping you in a space where it's neither day nor night. Funny enough, it takes Marissa a good while before she understands Yukari's actual power and instead asks Yukari if she's a yokai of night, dawn, or nighttime cherry blossoms. Yukari reveals to Reimu that she had not only been causing some issues in Haku Gyoukurou, but also had been slowly tearing a hole in the Hakure shrine barrier, which obviously pisses Reimu off. She's also responsible for weakening the barrier between the living and Haku Gyoukurou. So you fight her, and it's hellish. Extra stages are already difficult, but the Phantasm stage makes it even worse. But ideally, you win, she fixes the barrier, and everyone's happy. And that's the plot of Perfect Cherry Blossom, basically. Like before, there's probably more I could have gone into detail on, but the fact that there's 8 stages is, it's a lot. Thankfully, this is the only game in the main series with this many stages, as I believe Sun realized it was a lot more effort, and just kept it to 7 from then on. Yeah. Thank you for listening to me. I'm still kind of surprised you let me ramble that long. Don't get me wrong though. I'm thankful. If you want, I can talk about the next game sometime too. Perishable Night is one of my favorites. But yeah. I love Touhou. It's the best.